Testing, testing. Testing 1, 2, 3.
And they blame Albany for their... Bring it back.
Morning, Governor.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess. Pardon?
You want us to ask questions, Governor, while we're waiting? You want us to talk to you, Governor, while we're waiting?
From the top, we make my statement first.
There'll be a lot. I mean, why wait for people?
I can't always keep it open.
Good afternoon. Not ready?
How are you? Okay.
I'm very peaceful.
Ready, Dan? We're waiting. No, wait. Don't put that aside. David again? Oh, yeah.
Want to talk, Governor, while you're waiting?
Later time.
Wait just 1 second.
That's right.
Why don't you bring me up to date? What's happened in New York this week?
Any questions you have?
What happened?
The basic state.
May I ask me whatever questions you want?
Press secretary.
Gina.
We told them that everyone was asking you in Albany, Governor, whether you quit because of John Dyson.
Are we all set? Oh, thank you. I'm down. Hit the door. Rolling. Oh, rolling. That is right. Everybody rolling? Oh. Rolling?
Are we set or not?
Not yet. Oh, no.
No, maybe just say a few words this way so it sounds like you're talking to us. And
I appreciate your being patient. Thank you. May I begin?
Ready?
Rolling? Anytime. Rolling.
As most people know, I have had doubts about seeking a second term. I expressed these doubts last December, and there followed a series of meetings between myself and the governor's office relating to what would change to make our working relationship better in any second administration. I set out early in 1975 to take the office of Lieutenant Governor and change its passive position of limited responsibility to an office of community linkage with state decision makers, and as a catalyst for local and regional problem solving. We did this. I have enjoyed my public service and have grown in knowledge and understanding of the people statewide. In my constant travels throughout all parts of this magnificent state, I have met with thousands of people and listened to their concerns. Too often I have returned to Albany, fresh from my talks, convinced that our citizens deserve action on their problems, and have found no one in the governor's chair willing to listen. During the past 3.5 years, I have served the governor with dedication, integrity, and loyalty. I had expected the same dedication from the governor to the people of our state. This quality I have found lacking. The seriousness of the obligations of the office of governor requires a leader to be accessible and to fulfill commitments. I have wanted to believe that things had changed. I have reluctantly arrived at the conclusion that there is no change, and I cannot carry an appeal to the people of our state, aware as I am that nothing would be different in a second administration. I love New York too much to serve as Lieutenant Governor without being able to work as a partner with a governor willing to fulfill his obligations of office. I cannot run for Lieutenant Governor and at the same time preserve my integrity, my devotion to good government, and my commitment to the people of this state. I am not and will not be a candidate for Lieutenant Governor.
Will you be a candidate for governor?
You sound as if you're ready to vote for Perry Duryea. Would you consider running for governor possibly after the convention?
I love my work. I have taken a job that nothing was expected of, and I have carried my concern and my commitment across this state. I don't take this step lightly. I had reached the point because of representations that were being made. The old saw about promise her anything and give her our pledge seemed to be the mode of operation of the governor and his people.
Are you going to run against Hugh Carey in a primary?
I have made no decisions but not to seek the office of Lieutenant Governor on this ticket.
Will you be a part of the state's Democratic Convention on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday?
There is no role for me there.
Will you
And
support?
are you going to then not attend the convention and not be involved with it in any way?
I have scheduled one social occasion at my home, to which I have invited some county chairmen and friends, and that still is on the agenda. I hope they'll come.
Are you keeping the possibility open right now of running for governor and going the petition route?
I'm being as honest with you as I can. I have kept my counsel. I'm told of the escalating sense of frustration that I felt, and that the continuation of the kinds of activities and omissions that led me to finally conclude that nothing would change. And I kept this, it was a culmination of things. Cancellations of appointments. In the middle of last week, when I was to be involved in helping with the scheduling of things, I learned that the governor was not going to attend the conference of mayors. There were many things. There were many things that were leading to the conclusion that there was just no continuation of access, no change.
What obligations did he not fulfill? He said he didn't fulfill his obligations. What obligations did he not fulfill?
I can't pinpoint one single thing. I think that what we have to recognize is that I have a different kind of commitment. I took an office that nothing was expected of, and I've made it one in which I continuously am out there because I believe in open government. I believe in policies based on access to people, problem solving based on true understanding of what things are all about, what needs are. And I find no ear for this. I find no willingness to accept this kind of role. I find an total incompatibility. I was led to believe that things would change in a second administration, and I am convinced that nothing would. This whole approach, the inaccessibility, the cancellation of appointments, the refusal to fulfill obligations when obligations were made to be places and to meet with people.
Are you referring to obligations made to you as Lieutenant Governor or obligations of the office to the people of the state?
Both.
This is going to hurt the
Both,
governor's
because for
chances.
me, there is no such thing as anything that is short of an obligation to the people. I've begun to meet with media advisors and to talk about joint scheduling, and as the weekend unfolded, it became very clear that that was just going to be a total reversal of what had been pledged to me in terms of the basis upon which I made any understandings to seek a second term with the governor. I communicated this to Mr. Morgado, the governor's secretary, and to his media advisors on Friday morning, early in the hours, and told them that I saw nothing changing, that I saw no commitments that were being honored, and that I was reaching the conclusion that I would not run with the governor. And I did not hear further from anyone until Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock when the governor called me.
Governor, if the election comes down to Mr. Dorier against Governor Carey, will you support either candidate?
I think that the Democratic Party has ample opportunity to demand of its standard bearers the kind of fulfillment of what this party stands for. It is a party that has led in the fight for openness of government. Right now there is a move afoot to block anyone coming on the ballot except by being the official designee of the party. That is contrary to everything I have fought for as a legislator, and what I have fought for and believe in, and what I live by. There are things that are happening that make me very, very upset about the way the leadership is operating. I think the Democratic Party is a party of openness, of access. It belongs to the people. It's a party of principle.
Mrs. Krupsak, that
And there is
sounds
now...
That sounds like a call to arms. Are you about to take a walk and lead a revolt against the leaders at this convention this week?
Gabe, I am not a candidate for one of the most important and serious offices in the state of New York. It is the second in this post. It has the responsibilities of office of next in succession, and I abandon it and give it up seriously and with the full mind of what I am doing. I love my work. I created a job that didn't exist before, but I cannot in conscience and in integrity to myself and my beliefs, with the conditions as they are, join this ticket. There is ample time for the governor to search his soul. There is time for this Democratic Party to search the whole range of potential candidates. And you asked me what I would do. I can't tell you at this moment.
Mary Anne, what did the governor's call
The
say to you
governor is
yesterday?
not fit to hold the office of governor.
I think that the governor, as a person who does not share my conviction of being someone accessible to the people, with the obligations to fulfill commitments, to make policies based on a kind of outreach and a kind of drawing on the strengths of people and their own convictions about their futures, makes it difficult for me to run with him. That's all I've said here today.
What did the governor's telephone call to you yesterday say?
The governor said that he understood that I had some problems about some of his approach to his obligations, and he asked me to run with him, as he had on other occasions. I told him that I saw nothing changing, and that I had become entirely convinced that I had been led astray, and that I had made a terrible mistake. I think I wanted so desperately to believe that things would be different because I love my work, and I love serving, and I felt that I had created a better office. But I can't. In all honesty, I cannot run on a ticket in which I am to be the person who is expected to travel the state, to carry the message, and to take my credibility to the people and say that my approach will be the approach of the next administration. I can't do that.
Last night, and you told her to put it down.
Said if that was the way I felt, that so be it. And then we said goodbye to each other and we hung up.
Is it still possible
What
for
happened
the
after
change
that?
of mind?
No.
It is. Well, let me ask you.
Would you like to see the governor
Mr.
move
Krupsak,
this?
Would
you like to see the governor lose?
I would like to see the governor change.
I want to know if your complaint is that you were not given substantive responsibilities, or is it that Carey has not been a good governor?
There were many things about the way in which this office evolved. I created my own role. And it was after the governor saw that there were many things that I was bringing as input to him that he adopted and he accepted and became part of the administration. I can speak of, for example, in the Mid-Hudson area, heavy unemployment, and I helped to bring a major industry there. And there are things like this across this state. I'm fighting hard for your college. I think that that's the central theme, and I'm going to speak at a commencement there on Thursday. I am answering your question. It's both. It's both. You
do not feel he has been a good governor?
I think that when a person is a good governor, in whatever sense you mean by that, it means access. It means recognizing the needs of people and building a program based on that. I see no reason why this administration cannot understand what the future of Queens could be. The whole Queens legislative delegation has fought hard for your college. A spirit of revival and renewal will come to Queens County if that happens. And yet there is no leadership there. I have brought this because I've been in that community and I sense it myself. I sense that the future is based on how people perceive their own commitment and how they can build on what a government's role is in terms of giving them a partnership, giving government resources to these kinds of activities. You are not a good public official, in my opinion, unless you reach out, and that's why I reach out.
In simple language, though, has Governor Carey's administration been a good or a bad one for people of this state?
I think that the governor has made some very bold and very moral decisions on many matters. I think that he has been sensitive in the economic areas, and I would have done the same as anybody who understands the economic situation of New York would have advocated and led a fight for tax reform and for tax cuts. But I'm talking about something bigger than that. There is more to it than just the kinds of moral questions that come before you. There is leadership. There is access. There is building on the strengths of people. We are a brilliant state. We have ideas, and we have people who care about their own communities and their own neighborhoods. And there is no attempt to reach out. There is no attempt to be accessible to those people. The door is constantly closed. And I have pleaded. I have said that there's no way that I, with my convictions and my commitment, and the kind of continuous contacts that I have across the state, can be part of a team that goes out and says that we will build on this when I know that it isn't happening. I wanted to believe that it would happen because it happened once or twice with Stewart Base in Newburgh, with the Adirondack Railway from Utica to Lake Placid. But I've seen since the last week, when it was clear that we seemed to be ready for a joint announcement, that everything began to unravel. I saw the beginning of the same old policies. Cancel this, don't go to that, send her instead, send Dyson instead, send this one instead, send Ross, send one of the commissioners, but don't go there yourself. Don't go there and subject yourself to having people ask you questions or tell you themselves how they feel about you.
Who said that? Who told the governor that he should have attended go to these different places?
I have no idea. I don't have that closer relationship with the governor to know on what basis he makes those decisions about his schedule. But one of the conditions that I set back several months ago was that I would be part of joint scheduling. My invitations number in 700 a week. I take as many as I can, but I wanted to see what the governor was being invited to and what he was going to be accepting and what he wasn't accepting, so that we could plan these things together, so that there would be no surprises and that I would know what he was doing. And I began to see that there was no accessibility.
What do you think the governor could do, or anyone else could do to the governor's chances?
I have to be as faithful to my own soul and to my own integrity. I think this is time enough for the party to respond and to take to heart what I have said. If I have stood for anything, it has been that I have been an honest person in public life, and I've been candid and I have been hardworking. And if my withdrawal from this ticket is a shock, and it has been to many political leaders who have called me, then it seems to me that they ought to go to their standard bearer and ask him to take stock of what's happened and why and try to do something about it.
Will you be active in the attempts to change the party and their goals and their platforms and methods, and if so, how?
I have done it repeatedly as a leader of my party. This action, which is not an easy action for me to take, you have to know how important my work is and to reach this position in public life after the years of hard work against all odds and to relinquish it is a statement of the need for reform and for the party not to change its basic thrust and its basic principles.
But how will you help the party to make these reforms that you want?
Sometimes by taking an unprecedented act, you make a statement of another kind. I think what I'm doing here today is a message to my party and to its leadership.
Is there anything that the governor can do or that anybody else can do to change your mind?
No, not at this point.
Mr. Krupsak, if you feel so deeply about this and so principled about it, why just a matter of days ago did you fight for Carey's endorsement with the Liberal Democrats?
Because I honestly wanted to believe that things had changed, and then in a matter of several days, it began to unravel, and the kind of things that happened.
4 years that the man's been in office, not what's happened the last 2-3 days.
Because I believe, no, it isn't. It really isn't, because there's no question on the principles of NDC is an issue-oriented organization.
Was there something you wanted that Governor Carey has refused to give you in the last few
No,
days?
absolutely not on a personal level, but a fulfillment of a way of approaching in the obligations of office.
Governor, just one
Time for
more
about
question,
2 more questions.
Mr. Krupsak,
You state in your press release that you found nobody in the governor's chair willing to listen when you come back with problems from citizens, and you serve with integrity and loyalty, and find that same dedication lacking in the governor. Are you not saying he's a bad governor? You seem to come right up to that point and then turn away from it.
I feel very strongly about access and about fulfillment of obligations and being a leader. And I find things lacking in the governor, and I hope that he can change.
Mrs. Krupsak, isn't this, from Carey's standpoint, a stab in the back?
You'll have to ask Governor Carey. He'll be here later in the
Well, this
afternoon.
is the day he's announcing, and you're telling him today that you can't run with him because he doesn't have the same qualities of, and I quote, dedication, integrity, and loyalty that you have.
I have those to him, and I felt that, and I was prepared to run with him. I have never tried to be competitive. I have been happy in my role if that had been one that had been understood and had been recognized. And when I told him months ago that I could not seek a second term unless there were a completion of some kind of partnership of approach, I told him then I would fulfill my term of office and that I would make a decision based on how he interpreted what a second term would be. And we'd begun to work toward that end. It has not worked. I have been mistaken that anything could change. It's a basic part of the way he functions, and we're totally incompatible as far as our approach to public service.
Yet there's a mystery about your use of these words as to what you mean specifically. In what way has he not been dedicated? In that he's a loner, that he doesn't consult with people, that he shut off from people? Is that what you're saying?
There's no access. I think that you have but to ask the governor about his own scheduling, his own commitments, who his advisors are, what kind of input he has, and what his approach is to his public life. It is different from mine, and I felt that it was very important that he understand that being out among the people, bringing in the concerns and the kind of priorities that people saw for their own future. I used the York College as a very good example, but the point is that there is just no willingness to open and to broaden the base from which one makes decisions. And I can't function that way, and I cannot, in good faith, in a clear conscience, travel the state and urge people to vote for a ticket that would be reflective of both of us, when in fact I know for a fact that it would not be any longer.
You were interrupted before when you tried to explain the conversation between yourself and the governor. You said something happened after the phone call. What happened after the governor said to you, "So be it"?
About 2 hours later, my phone began to ring. I began to make some telephone calls myself. I felt it was important to try to reach Dominic Barinello, to reach a few of the political leaders in the state, across the state, who were especially good friends of mine and other personal friends, and I began to make telephone calls. I received 1 or 2 telephone calls, and this continued until very early into the morning. But I made several telephone calls. I never heard again further from the governor, but there were telephone calls that were being placed At that point, I had some members of my staff who were present, and David Garth began to telephone, and Bob Mercado, and others from the...
Governor, question, do you think that the governor would treat any lieutenant governor the way he's treated you, or do you think it's a specific problem that you have with him?
I can only speak for what I know and what I feel. He will be here later today, and I think you can ask him that yourself.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. Solution or part of the answer, or part of the problem in your decision?
I'm sorry, I just...
Did Garth and Mercado, when they told you to try to provide part of the problem that you are facing, or part of the answer?
They've always tried to be a bridge and a link. Perhaps that's part of the problem, that a lieutenant governor and a governor need bridges and links.
Thank you, Governor.
They've always tried to be a bridge and a link.
Thank you.
No run for governor in your
The
part.
only decision that I have made, and it's been a hard one, and I have thought hard and deeply about this, is not to seek the office of lieutenant governor.
You haven't
I'm saying
ruled out
nothing
any-
else further.
You haven't ruled out then
I'm
a
saying
run for
nothing-
governor.
I have thought nothing further, and that's it.
You haven't begun to consider that whether or not